It all starts with this. This is the ultimate power.
Hello everybody, it's me, your good friend Sparky, and welcome back to Sonic Heroes. We're heading into the final 2 stages of the game.
You fools must all have a death wish. Witness this invincible battleship built by the hands of a genius. Its power unmatched throughout the universe.
All right, Eggman, let's get this party started.
Wow, we're flying way high.
They're not full!
Come on, this is nothing. Let's keep moving.
Yeah, you guys have been in space plenty of times. I feel like taking on a few battleships really isn't that big of a deal. But anyway, welcome to the Egg Fleet, the first of the 2 final stages of Sonic Heroes. And man, oh man, do I really like this stage. It has all the grind rails and things like that, the bullet station does, and it moves along at a really fast pace for the most part. It is definitely not like the previous stage. And while it's also certainly a tough stage, it feels like it's a bit more fair. It's definitely worthy of being the introduction to what is basically the finale of the game for all the different teams here. It's just visually too, jumping between the different battleships and things like that, it's really nice. I mean, I don't really get the purpose of all the various floating platforms scattered about everywhere. I guess these are all part of battleships, maybe? It doesn't really make a lot of sense contextually, but just being able to jump from ship to ship and taking on like an entire fleet of Eggman battle cruisers and like shredding through all of them is really cool. Then you've got these guys. And these guys are kind of the opposite of being really cool. They're a type of enemy, I don't know their exact name. They can shield themselves and they fire giant lasers, and unlike a lot of the other shielded enemies in the game, you can't actually knock off their shield, thereby removing their defenses. And when you attack them, you've got to kind of wait till they're attacking so you can counterattack them, because if you just try to attack them willy-nilly, they can block all of your attacks, and it's just not fun. Even the power characters really can't get through their defenses, so they become kind of an annoying roadblock at points. But you do have these awesome segments when you're floating through the air and dodging around cannons and things like that. You're just constantly under attacking this stage from cannons or enemies or lasers, and it would seem obnoxious, but it's kind of exhilarating, honestly. It feels like it's definitely a final encounter with Dr. Eggman. Honestly, probably one of the better final Sonic stages from this era, if you would ask me. There's always, of course, really cool stages towards the ends of these games, but they don't always feel like they have the same grand epic scale as this stage does. It feels like you're taking on a whole army and the world is kind of against you. Or at least all of the enemies are against you. And yeah, these guys, they're a pain. You can knock them off balance with the tornado move, but at the same time, it's not always, doesn't always really work. And hey, we have a point where Rocket Excel actually kind of comes in handy, and you actually have to use it. You charge through and you blow up the battleship and you go flying off. It's so nice. It's so cool. just in comparison to the last stage we had to go through, it might have its share of annoyances, but it's just so quick-paced and fun. I love it. It's exhilarating. I still think the jungle levels are probably my favorite in the game, just from their aesthetic standpoint and like the cool things they do with the gimmicks of just you know, the vines growing and things like that. Sorry, brain stopped for a second. It's fine. I'm okay. I'm a little tired. It's okay. We got Sonic Heroes to pump us up. We got Sonic Heroes to kind of keep us going and keep us moving. I just wish the dumb shielded enemies didn't get in the way all the time. Then you get flying through the air with the triangle dive, going between the giant fans and things like that. It's just so neat. It's neat. I love it. I love this stage. It's a lot of fun, is what I'm getting at, if you couldn't guess. And you're just weaving in between cannon fire and things like that. And you have these run-alongs, the different ships, and there's a lot of light dash things too, which always kind of increases the awesome factor. Of course, it only really applies to Sonic and Shadow, but at the same time, it's nice. It just feels really good. This is a good feeling stage, and it's such a breather after the slog that the previous stages were to get through. Got another segment with the propeller here, and notably, didn't really mention it before, these propellers too, similarly, were in the jungle stages. And you can kind of adjust yourself up and down and to gather items and things like that. But notably here, they're also used to get out of the way of enemies and attacks. So you gotta kind of maneuver around and dodge between bullets and things like that sometimes. And there are segments here where you can jump off too and onto other ships and things like that to gather other items and things like that. But for the most part, you're gonna want to hang onto the propeller and just kind of get to the next segment here. The next big battleship upcoming. We gotta dash through here. We gotta run into bullets a lot, apparently. Yeah, sometimes the absurd amounts of cannon fire coming your way can get in the way, but it's all good. It's all in great fun. It's just an impressive stage overall. And I wish more finale Sonic stages were like this, where they were just kind of full energy. It's so nice. It's so cool. I can't express my admiration for these stages enough. Not to mention, this stage in particular, we're slowly coming up on the end of it. It's got a really cool finale too here with Team Sonic, which I just love as well. And then there's this guy. Let's just not take any crap from him. A good old Team Blast. And running through here. And hey, I remember to use the Lightspeed attack for once, and it almost kills me, but it's fine. Almost just completely fell off. Anyway, trying to get the hang of how the heck Rocket Excel works is not always easy. And, surprisingly, that's the end of the stage. And we get a cool, epic shot of them flying through the air. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. And I love just watching it back, too. It was an 8-minute long stage, but it didn't feel like it. When the stage flows well, you don't really feel the time on them.
Perfect.
Perfect indeed. Definitely perfect. But what's unfortunately not as perfect is the actual final stage, Final Fortress. This one, not quite as fun.
I'm feeling a bit uneasy. Time to attack.
I thought that battleship was big, but this is enormous.
Main transporters detected. Destruction mode engaged.
Going into full destruction mode with Team Dark taking on the final fortress, the final barrier between us and Dr. Eggman. And unfortunately, this stage kind of is totally the opposite of the last stage. Where the last stage was very quick and exhilarating, this stage unfortunately does not really have that distinction. And especially with this run of Team Dark, it did not go very well. Truth be told, I actually considered re-recording this segment just so I could get a smoother run of the stage in, but I lost so many lives on this stage, and the checkpoints feel like they are very few and far between in spots, and it just ends up resulting in a bad time if you end up losing a lot of lives. Because not only are you losing a lot of lives, and you're risking getting game overs and things like that, it also has you just repeating the same segments over and over and over again, and it's just ends up not being a great time. Not to mention, this is definitely probably the longest stage in the game. So just everything kind of accumulates to wearing on your nerves and having to stop and destroy barriers and jump around complicated obstacles going forward. It's still a neat stage visually, but we've even got upgraded versions of the annoying shield laser firing robots right here, and that's not cool. It's definitely not fun to deal with. Going after them with Team Blast is usually the way. But unfortunately, we also have the minor annoyance of Chaos Inferno stopping time and us having to wait for it to be finished in order to actually proceed forward in the stage. It's definitely very cool. A nice attention to detail for Team Chaotix, and Team Chaotix, Team Dark, and having Shadow on the team especially, just having the time control element in there. But yeah, it could be done better. It definitely could. You know, it's all relative. This is upcoming here, one of the parts that really kind of messed me up a lot. Just in general, the homing attack not wanting to work. And there are a lot of segments here where you can really easily accidentally fall through different segments of the stage. There are a lot of little gaps everywhere, and it's just my luck. I happen to keep falling through them over and over and over again. Not to mention, parts of this stage, when you pass over them, are continuously collapsing. So it creates an added problem of, like, trying to stay on the stage when it's falling apart around you, and it's just, oof. It's definitely oof. Every time a checkpoint showed up in the stage, I breathed a small sigh of relief, only to be assaulted by the next obstacle in my way. We get to blow up more ships, which is really cool, with giant self-destruct buttons. But then we get to segments like this, where we are on grind rails, which is nice, and adds to, like, the epic parts of the stage. But we've got lasers coming through that we need to dodge around. And when you're dodging around lasers on the grind rails, it's not always easy. And I feel like there's a weird timing problem with the grind rails in this segment, where if you are moving too fast along the rail, it can end up triggering the next laser before the previous laser is gone, and you end up having nowhere to actually dodge. Or at least, nowhere to dodge the way the game kind of intended you to do it, I ended up taking on those grind rail segments with Rouge and in the flying formation, because rather than trying to use the funky rail switching mechanics in this game, it's a lot easier to just jump over the laser with your flight character. It's a lot safer, too. And it just ends up working out a lot better. There's a couple segments like that, and it's just one of those added sort of annoyances that really kind of drags this stage to a halt sometimes. Trust me, I was very, very aggravated by the time I actually got done with this. And truth be told, moving into the final boss with Team Dark after this, I actually did end up getting a game over because of how many lives I lost on this stage specifically. Sonic Heroes overall, even with Team Dark, even though they're the hard mode, it does give you a lot of opportunities to earn extra lives with collecting rings and with the special stages especially. When you're heading into the special stages, the main goal of half of them is just to collect extra lives. And even in the Chaos Emerald Challenge ones, you still earn lives once you collect the Chaos Emerald. If you're quick to gathering the Emerald or quick to finishing the special stage in general, you can usually earn at least like 3 extra lives every time you complete a special stage. So over the course of the game, over the course of 14 stages, if you're consistent with getting into the special stages and collecting the special stage keys and getting to the end of the stage with them, you can end up having a lot of lives by the time you reach the end of the game. And normally that means losing lives is not really a problem. And I don't remember ever having this much issue with this stage in particular. It's a tough stage, but in general, it's not really that difficult. Of course, there's obnoxious segments like this where we're trying to ride up a tiny fan with the triangle dive and continually accidentally moving off the path. Yeah. So this stage is definitely tough, and it's gonna wear at your nerves a little bit, especially if you're trying to go for A ranks. You really gotta get good at this game to get A ranks in these later stages. But man, I did not expect to have as much trouble as I did. I equate that some to just kind of being out of practice with the game in general. I tried my best to take on all of the stages, like, one at a time with each of the teams. Like, I cleared the first set of stages with Team Sonic, then I did it with Team Dark, then Rose, then Chaotix, and I proceeded forward with that to try to give myself, like, the optimal amount of practice with each of the teams consistently. So I wasn't just wearing myself down doing the hard mode Team Dark stages all in a row like that. I tried my best to make this like of an even experience to get myself used to the game again and make it play as well as possible, so, you know, it ends up being entertaining to watch. If I'm screwing around and just wearing myself down, losing lives over and over again, I don't want you guys to have to see that. I want you to be entertained. This stage, though, man, it definitely took its toll. Especially if you do get to end up getting to segments like this, when you don't have a team blast handy, it can be a pretty big problem trying to get through some of the tougher enemies. They end up slowing things down a lot more. Especially these big hammer guys with their giant range of attack. And these advanced models, especially considering you can only really damage them if you attack the head, And the weak point doesn't always seem like it works at all. You can only really effectively damage them with the power character in general, and sometimes you just miss, and there's no reason for it. Overall, yeah, this stage ended up being a bit of a problem. Especially with parts like this. Use a Team Blast, trigger Chaos Control, and then have to wait for Chaos Control to stop in order to actually continue with the stage, which just, ironically, even though time has stopped, it slows things down even more. Definitely the most difficult part of this stage is just dealing with all of these spots where you have to stop and wait, and Team Dark, like, artificially adds more of those spots in. And, here's me almost completely screwing up and falling off the stage again. Which, trust me, I think did happen once or twice. It's just a lot of segments of really, really having difficulty dealing with this game's nonsense at times. Especially for things like this. Hello, 3 giant robots who have huge ranges of attack and really cause a lot of issues. Not to mention, every time you fall off that segment, it kind of re-triggers those robots, and they kind of respawn. I don't think they, like, accumulate any damage or anything like that. Just in general. Every time you go back up here, they come back down, and I'm pretty sure they are back at full health. Even if you manage to deal some damage, if you accidentally fall off like this, it just triggers it all over again. And the game really wants you to use a Team Blast there, and I just did not have it ready. Just 3 incredibly tough enemies with large attack ranges on a relatively small platform to fight them. Yes, Rouge, I know. Ready the Team Blast. We're aware. Yeah. This took a while. This took an embarrassingly long while. Oh, dear. So, yeah, I ended up getting kind of sick of it. And it purposefully decided to trigger the Team Blast instead of trying to trigger it naturally by fighting this guys. As long as you are swinging your arms around with Omega, you do gradually build up the Team Blast gauge. It's true for any, like, attack action you end up doing. So, sometimes that's just the optimal strategy, instead of having to deal with the game's nonsense. Thankfully, though, the stage is pretty soon here coming to a close. We've been in it much longer than we really should have been. And of course, we've got one more grind rail segment to deal with. Which, of course, does come with more lasers to deal with. And one thing the Team Dark stage does that the other versions of this stage do not is that it likes to stick enemies right at the end of these grind rails. Like right here. Where you're speeding along and you're just going at top speed without any kind of warning that they are there, like here, and it just ends up resulting in a bad time. And I end up missing the grind rail. And have to do it again. But, you know, that was just par for the course at this point. I can't tell you exactly how many lives I actually did end up losing on this stage, but it was a lot, and I was fuming at the end of it. But thankfully, we are right at the end, dodging out of the way of one more giant laser, taking on a couple more little guys, or just ignoring them, I guess. And hitting one more giant self-destruct button, blowing up Eggman's big old robotic head, and finally getting to the goal ring. Yes, I was very pleased to finally get to this point. It was not a fun time at all. Oh well. Not a good score.
What's wrong with me?
It's not you, Shadow. It's the stage. It's definitely the stage. But of course, we're not quite finished yet. We've got one more boss to get out of the way before we've cleared everything in the main story.
This time you won't get away!
Give it up!
This looks like checkmate, Doctor.
Enough of this! Sonic, Tail, Knuckles! I will be your maker! I'll show you what real evil is!
This is it, guys. Don't hold anything back.
Okay!
No worries!
Level up!
The Egg Emperor is our final boss that each of the teams have to take on. And it's a bit of a doozy, your first time doing this. As previously established, this was my first time playing the game in quite a while, and it took me a little while to get used to how the Egg Emperor works again. It functions a lot like the Egghog fight, where you are chasing down Dr. Eggman through specific parts of the stage, and then you end up coming to the sort of stationary battle arenas where you get the most opportunity to deal damage to him. But of course, you're surrounded by cannons and enemies, and well, it ends up causing problems like that, where you end up losing lives and things like that. Gathering up level orbs and trying to get rid of as many obstacles as possible, and getting your team blast ready is definitely advisable, and the way that you should go about doing this fight. The Egg Emperor is very durable, and if you don't fight him properly, you can be in this battle for quite a while. Not to mention, he's got a shield that ends up causing him to be able to block attacks. You can disable the shield, which is important to note. The shield really does not like Thundershoot, and that ends up being a pretty good way to knock out his defenses and then really layer on the damage. The Egg Emperor itself has sort of become an iconic Sonic boss in its own right. I know they ended up putting this boss, I think... Oh, well, there's Lightspeed Attack going nuts, attacking all of the missiles. Yeah, Lightspeed Attack is a little funky like that, in the sense that it also attacks, like, projectiles and things like that. So it can end up stalling you in place unintentionally, and if you wait too long to catch up to Dr. Eggman here, he does end up charging at you, which causes problems in itself. Yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the Egg Emperor ended up being kind of an iconic boss in itself. I believe this boss ended up showing up in the 3DS version of Sonic Generations. And I want to say it was Sonic Lost World that has a pretty similar final boss. Final Dr. Eggman fight. I can't remember what that one's called off the top of my head, but it reminds me a lot of the Egg Emperor. And, I mean, it's a fun fight when you get used to it. It's just a matter of getting used to it. And finishing off with the Team Blast is usually the way to go. Definitely the most impressive way, anyway. And that is the Egg Emperor there, and that is going to be the end of the episode. Thank you very much for watching. This is your good friend Sparky signing off for now. We're going to move into the last couple stages with the last two teams next time. Until then, enjoy the final cutscenes and the bonus bits.
Boy, talk about cutting it close.
Not really.
Come on, tell me you weren't scared. If it wasn't for us, you wouldn't have had a chance.
Well, maybe you're right. Thanks, Knuckles. You too, Tails. Later, guys. I'm out of here.
Wait up, Sonic! Get back here!
Eggman target completely destroyed. Now let's find that secret treasure.
Prepare to destroy immediate area.
Hey, Omega. Did I ever tell you that Shadow is a robot? And... oh, never mind. Good luck.
You know about cloning. The original must exist somewhere.
All this for what? Nothing? I might as well go look for that Master Emerald, since that irritating echidna's here.
Some things never change.
What do you say? What else is that famous treasure supposed to do?
You fools must all have a death wish. Witness this invincible battleship built by the hands of a genius. Its power unmatched throughout the universe.
You'll regret this, Doctor. Even if I'm not real, I'm still the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog.
We're flying very high. We might even be at the edge of space.
Space. Did you say space?
This must be Eggman's headquarters.
The airbase!
How does this thing stay afloat? Doesn't matter. Let's take it down. Take this!
Okay, no more games!
Intercept mode complete.
The end of the line, Doctor.
Enough of this! Shut Bruce! Omega! To be your favor. I'll show you what real evil is.
This is it. Let's go.
Okay!